Once again, we are going to be proceeding from where we stopped last time. We are talking about why is social studies so boring as a discipline. When you look at social studies as a discipline, as a subject, it makes learners to become bored, or it makes learners to be not interested in the subject. It's because of the different things that our maybe are pointing about. First of all, students, they tend to hate history class when you were in school because of memorizing all those meaningless dates and names. The dates could be a challenge of them. Try to now to memorize those dates or years became hard for them. That's why it was a boring subject. You find that the learner used hard to grasp the information in the head concerning specific years or events. Then the other thing, talk about names of personalities, names of places. Their pronunciation tends to be hard for them, so it makes also boring for learners if a learner cannot be able to identify or the name or spell the name or speak out the name of that given place, so it becomes hard for them. Then talked about the names and places. So those are some of the things that make this now subject become boring. So it makes learners, all history students studying, all people studying these things to do not like them at all, or it makes the subject to be boring in case they find years, dates, and also names or places being difficult for them, so they are not favorable subjects, or they are not favorable to them, so it makes learners think that they are not interesting. Then the other, they are trying to talk about social studies instruction. Instruction should challenge students to think about the events that they have made in the world, or they have made over the world, the way it is. You're saying that lessons should be encouraged to interactive, that no child could never find it boring for them to do when they try to engage themselves in attractive or interactive participation with the other colleagues or with other members at school, because they will find the subject interesting. Now, when we move on below there is a statement which says that what if I hate social studies as discipline? Then they are saying that is a question. Then someone is saying that then I'm proud of you for even bothering to read this page, because a lot of teachers do not even try to step out of their comfort zone. Then therefore they try now to study or to what they are trying to do, the teachers that tend not to step out of their comfort zone, then remain the other side, so it also makes the subject look boring and also tiresome. Therefore, they also say that good news is that you can tell the kids this. I like to explain to me, or to explain our class, that everyone who has to study, in bracket they are saying all two, all three, that are hard for them, all others mind science. Therefore, the somebody will also be replying that I tell them what they should be learning, as for them they are conducting their studies. So that is a question that someone may ask. You can go through it. Then the other, there is also something they are also trying to ask teachers what the kids want to know. In other words, teach what learners want to know, not what you want to teach. So I encourage you all to base your social studies instruction on what we call current events. So things that tend to be happening currently. So those are the things learners could be wanting to hear when they are actually pursuing their course of studying social studies as a discipline. And then the other, they also focus on aspects of encouraging them, or encourage many teachers or myself to have a freedom to teach what and when or how they should be teaching, and not only basing on what we call textbooks, because textbooks sometimes tend to be boring. So you try to bring in something that would be of current, so that it makes the session to go on with ease. Then the other that they are asking themselves is also there, that teach what you are passionate about. With what you are passionate about, this one mainly talks about what you love to do, but not what you do not love to do. As they are saying that even if you are not a historian, there is a possibility at time period or culture that always facilitated you or incorporates the interest, though read aloud and mean units. In other words, they are trying to mean that that you find that even though you are not interested in the subject, but when you have passionate about it, or when you don't study that subject, you will be able to give out what you want, because you are interested in doing that thing. Therefore, they teach with your strength or teach with the effort, because you love what you are doing and trying new things. Actually, try to be bringing in new things or aspects that all the learners will always want to hear about from you. Then when we go on, we are going to be looking at another thing that we'll be talking about, interesting ideas for teaching social studies or social studies content. When we move on, they are saying, look at your statement, your state standards. Then they are saying, chances are elementary school children no longer have to memorize dates and identify random historical figures like we did when we are growing up. That it's not only about grasping the days, years of the past years, but also try to review what you are giving to learners, because things have tried now to change. Then when we move on, we have a question there that tries to talk about what would you do? What would you do? Because when you look up here, we are saying that interesting ideas for teaching social studies content. But they are saying that after saying that you should be mindful of what you are going to teach, identify that learners no longer memorize dates, identify random figures. So what can you do, in other words, to make the subject interesting for the learners? First of all, what you can do before introducing what we call an historical event, for instance, it can be a walk to the learners. I talk about slave trade when you are dealing with the topic concerning slave trade. It can be an adventure of other explorers. They are saying that you can bring in a demonstration where you group learners into groups, then you give them some tasks, then you let learners look at themselves, and then interpret for you the topic what we'll be talking about, then giving them years and ask them that what do you think about this year. So that one makes the subject boring, and they are saying before you go to that, make sure that you try to bring out an idea to learners. Even actually you can use the eyes closely by providing them images or photographs so that they are able to interpret the photos. Then from the internet, you can get them from the internet. Go with them to class, show the learners those pics, how they look like, so that learners will be actually trying to feel that they are in, they were in that time, or they try to grasp something from the photograph that you will be displaying to them, so that they are able to understand what you may be meaning. Then the other thing is what we call A to Z vocabulary, or social studies with World Wall or World Banker. Word Banker. With the Word Banker, then also Word Wall. These are like spellings or charts that are displayed to the classes, so that learners will be able to try to grasp something. This method is kind of traditional, or is done traditionally on the walls, where different pictures or diagrams are displayed to the walls, so that they attract learners. And also you can be using different colors of they can be manila papers displayed onto the walls, trying to show different things. Then they also talk about that these files can also be kept for future reference and under units letters, for instance, writing centers for students to continue to incorporate their vocabulary in the writing. So even they can be letters or figures that can be displayed on the walls, so that learners will be able to understand what you are talking about. Then the other that we can also talk about is what we call art history. Is history. Art history is also history. With this one, we are looking at the visual discovery. With the visual discovery, we are trying to use our eyes, or we try to use the sculptures from chosen period of time, then displayed it to the kids, so that the learners will be able to interface about different cultures, on how things used to happen back then, whereby the young children can be able to draw their conclusions about particular styles of dressing. As we move down in there, we are trying to see an image, trying to portray what people used to dress, or they are trying to portray an image that you can use, or you can draw different culture or different dress codes, display them onto manila, so that learners will be able to identify that in such and such a time, different societies we are used of dressing such and such a cloth. So that one is also another thing we can also borrow in order to allow our learners to grasp something. Then the other is saying that you can also introduce new units or topics or content with the pictures. Can also be extremely powerful to capture the learners' attention, or to make learners to be excited about what they are going to be learned, so that they try to depict or to picture out information towards the learner. When we move on, those are some of the material that we try to display for us how things used to happen back then. Then the other, they are talking about living status. With the living status here, we are looking at developmental creative skits. They can be skits that are organized for learners, trying to display different activities that are trying to show photos of status, and also discuss about them. Once those skits are staged or are displayed to the learners, they can also be good for the learners, or making the subject interesting. You organize the skits for the learners before you conduct a session, so that learners will be able to understand that they are going to be talking about a given topic. For instance, you can organize skits displaying slave trade, so that learners will be able to love your subject or your discipline. So those are things that we can be using to make learners to love your subject. Then the other is what we call experimental exercises. Experimental exercises. With experimental exercises, these use short, memorable experiences to help students to grasp spelling. You can call it SS content, concept, or spellings, or small things. You ask a learner will be able to respond. Call them experimental exercise. You ask questions in the class. So these ones help learners or prepare students for safety and successful experience. You can ask a question, for instance, what is meant by the term social studies there, and then a learner gives you immediate feedback. Then the other they are talking about that it makes the experience to be possible. Learners or teacher that conducting that session will be also getting feedback or experience. So those are some of the things that make a subject to be interesting. When we move on, we shall be looking at a new thing, and I think it will be then before we go on, there are also other things that we can use. We have extensional menus. They can be displaying different things that can attract learners. They can be in form of pictures that learners do want mostly, as you try to see on the screen. Those are the things that learners will be need to use. Then there's what we call ABCD books. The ABC books, these ones try to show letters but with different meanings. They display for you in case like letter G, then they say G means this, T means this. So those are things that try actually to make the subject interesting for the learners. Then the other thing we can also talk about is to have who has it. That one we call them praise. We can call them praise that actually help learners to grasp some content when they are reading. You ask a question, then the neighbor responds. Those ones also try to help learners to grasp information, but they are short in size. Then the other we can talk about is what we call postcard materials. The postcard materials, they also appear to be in the form of pictures, but this one they just display a physical landscape or physical features. At times they use them to tell which economic activity is taking place or what you see. They can be displaying weather. They can be displaying weather conditions of a place. So that's where we shall be picking up from next time.